What would you do if the people you love the most tried to control your heart and your choices? In this gripping story, Toan defies his mother's relentless pressure and escapes to a quiet countryside farm with Diem, seeking freedom and true happiness. When his mother sends a trusted intermediary to persuade him back, Diem must stand firm, protecting their love and convincing Toan to resist manipulation. Together, they face tension, loyalty, and the challenge of defending their bond. Subscribe now and follow the emotional journey of courage, love, and resilience that unfolds on this remote farm. Toan's disappearance from the family mansion had sent ripples of panic and frustration through his mother. She had never imagined that her son, the pride of the family and the heir to their legacy, would one day defy her so openly. Day after day, she called him, her voice a mixture of authority and desperation, each ring unanswered, each voicemail met with silence. Texts piled up on his phone, ranging from scolding reminders of his responsibilities to emotional pleas, yet Toan seemed unreachable, as if he had deliberately built an invisible wall between them. His absence gnawed at her, and every passing hour felt like a small defeat, a reminder that her carefully constructed world was unraveling. She could not comprehend why he had chosen to abandon the comfort, the influence, and the social recognition that came with their family name. And, worst of all, he had taken refuge at that rural farm with Diem, a woman whose background and life were so different from the world she had envisioned for him. The thought alone made her stomach twist with unease. Determined not to let her son slip further away, she began to consider more decisive measures. Calls and messages were no longer enough. She needed someone who could reach him where she could not, someone who understood him deeply, who could navigate the delicate territory of his emotions without causing him to recoil. She remembered an old friend. A man who had known Toan in his youth, someone who could speak to him as both confidant and guide. She called him that very evening, her voice firm but tinged with urgency, outlining the situation and emphasizing the need for subtlety and tact. She explained how Toan's defiance threatened not just the family's plans but also his own future. The friend listened silently, then agreed to intervene, aware of the challenge that lay ahead. When the man arrived at the farm the next morning, he was calm and polite, his demeanor measured. But even as he approached, Toan sensed the intrusion immediately. The air, usually filled with the soft rustle of leaves and the distant clucking of chickens, felt charged with tension. Diem, standing beside Toan, sensed it too, her instincts alert to the underlying threat. The visitor greeted them with a courteous smile, his words carefully chosen, each sentence meant to coax, persuade, and subtly pressure. "Toan, your mother is worried about you," he said smoothly. "She only wants what's best for you. She wants you to come home." On the surface, it sounded benign, almost reasonable, but beneath it lingered the weight of obligation and expectation, a reminder of the invisible chains Toan had tried to escape. Toan's jaw tightened, a flicker of anger crossing his face, yet he remained silent, studying the man carefully. He did not want to engage in a confrontation, not here, not in the sanctuary he had found with Diem. But Diem, sensing the tension, stepped slightly forward, her hand brushing lightly against his arm. Her presence was grounding, a reminder that they were in this together. She met the visitor's gaze with calm confidence, and her voice, gentle yet unwavering, carried across the quiet farmyard. She spoke of their life here, of the work, the routines, and the happiness they had cultivated despite the world beyond the fences. Each word was deliberate, a protective shield for Toan. A way of asserting that their life together was valid and worthy of respect. The man nodded slowly, his expression unreadable, recognizing the complexity of what he faced. He could see that any attempt at force or intimidation would be futile. Here, in this tranquil corner of the countryside, Toan had found a peace and determination that even the most persuasive words could not easily shake. And as he turned to leave, leaving behind a lingering tension, the silence that settled over the farm felt both fragile and resolute. Toan and Diem exchanged a glance, a silent acknowledgement of the storm that had come to their doorstep, and the certainty that together, they would weather it. Diem took a deep breath, her heart beating steadily despite the tension in the air. She understood, perhaps better than anyone, how fragile this moment was. Toan had been caught between two worlds, the one he had left behind, full of expectation, obligation, and relentless pressure, and the one they were building together, simple yet honest, filled with small joys and shared struggles. She knew that the man before them was not inherently malicious. He was merely the instrument of her mother-in-law's will, a messenger tasked with persuading Toan to abandon the life he had chosen. But Diem also knew that words alone, if careless, could tip the balance, and she could not allow Toan's happiness to be undermined by subtle coercion or guilt. With a quiet confidence, she stepped slightly forward, her presence commanding attention without aggression. "I understand why you're here," Diem began, her voice calm but resolute, "and I know your intentions are to protect Toan, but you need to understand that he is not a child to be guided by fear or obligation anymore. He has made a choice to be here, and he is thriving. He is happy, and his life here is real, tangible, and meaningful. You can't measure that with societal expectations or the comfort of old traditions." Her words were deliberate, measured, carrying the weight of conviction. She saw the man's eyes flicker, a brief hesitation that told her she had reached him, at least partially. She continued, describing in detail the daily life they had built together. Every morning, he wakes up before dawn to tend to the farm. He works with patience, with determination. He cares about this land, these animals, the people around him. And he does it not because he has to, but because he chooses to. That choice, that freedom, is what makes him who he is. You may not see it, but it is the reason he smiles, the reason he is at peace. And I am a part of that life, not because I forced it, but because we support each other. Our relationship is a partnership built on respect, trust, and genuine love. Isn't that worth acknowledging?" The man remained silent for a moment, absorbing her words. He shifted his weight, clearly reconsidering his approach. Diem sensed that she needed to make one last, decisive point. She stepped closer, lowering her voice but intensifying its sincerity. "If you try to pressure him, to make him choose out of guilt or fear, you will only push him further away. Toan is not yours to command. He is his own person, and he deserves to live a life that is true to himself. I am not asking you to abandon your loyalty to your friend or your former family ties. I am asking you to see him clearly, to respect the man he has become, and to allow him the dignity to choose for himself." Her words hung in the air, heavy yet gentle, leaving no room for misinterpretation. The man finally exhaled, a quiet acknowledgement of her resolve. He realized that any attempt to manipulate or coerce would not only fail but could damage the very bonds he had been sent to protect. Slowly, he nodded, a subtle concession to the truth in Diem's statements. Without further argument, he adjusted his posture, gave a polite, respectful bow, and excused himself from the farm, leaving behind a silence that was profound in its relief. Toan released a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. His shoulders, tense moments ago, relaxed as he turned to Diem, gratitude shining in his eyes. She smiled softly, squeezing his hand, and in that simple gesture lay an unspoken understanding that their bond, strengthened by trust and courage, could withstand not only the pressures of family expectations but any challenge that life might place in their path. Together, in the quiet of the farm, they had reaffirmed their commitment to each other, proving that love built on mutual respect and shared choice was stronger than any external force attempting to dictate their fate. The moment the visitor left, an almost tangible weight seemed to lift from the farm. The soft breeze rustled the leaves around them, carrying with it the gentle scent of hay and earth, and for the first time that day, Toan allowed himself to truly exhale. He turned to Diem, his eyes filled with gratitude, relief, and something deeper, an unspoken admiration for her courage and clarity. In her, he saw not just a partner, but a steadfast ally who understood the intricate balance of strength and tenderness that love demanded. He reached for her hand, their fingers intertwining, a quiet affirmation that they would face whatever challenges lay ahead together. Toan, he began, his voice low, almost vulnerable, as if the reality of the confrontation had left him momentarily unsteady. Diem shook her head gently, her thumb brushing over his knuckles in a comforting rhythm. "No words," she said softly. "You've done enough by simply being here, by standing firm. We'll handle everything else together. That's all that matters." Her words, simple yet profound, resonated deeply with him. He realized then that the farm, with its quiet routines and honest labor, was more than just a refuge. It was a sanctuary where their love could thrive, free from judgment, expectation, or coercion. The sun began its slow descent, painting the sky in shades of gold and rose. Shadows stretched long across the fields, and Toan felt an unusual sense of serenity settle over him. He could almost feel the presence of the farm itself acknowledging their victory, as if the very soil and trees were witnesses to the strength of their bond. "I don't want anyone to ever control my life again," he murmured, more to himself than to Diem. "I've spent too long trying to meet expectations that weren't mine. And now, with you, I feel like I can finally breathe." Diem squeezed his hand tighter, a silent promise that she would walk beside him, supporting him through every step, every decision, every storm that might come. Night approached, bringing with it a calmness that contrasted sharply with the tension of earlier hours. They moved through the farm together, feeding the animals, checking the fences, and tending to the small gardens. Each action, though mundane, felt charged with meaning. Every shared glance, every soft laugh, every gentle touch became a statement. They were a team, unshakable and united. The world outside, family expectations, societal pressure, even Toan's mother's relentless schemes, felt distant and powerless against the life they had chosen to build here. Later, as they sat on the porch watching the first stars appear, Toan rested his arm around Diem's shoulders. "I know this won't be the last time they try something," he said quietly, his gaze fixed on the horizon. "But now I understand something important. I'm not alone, and I don't have to face it alone. We face it together." Diem leaned into him, her head resting lightly against his chest, and for a long moment, silence enveloped them, not an empty silence, but one rich with understanding, trust, and love. In that quiet, they reaffirmed a truth both had come to realize. No force outside of their shared choice could ever sever the bond they had nurtured. Finally, Toan spoke again, his voice steady, confident, and resolute. "Whatever comes, whatever pressure, I won't let it shake us. I won't let anyone take this from us. You and I, we're stronger than any expectation, any threat, any obstacle. I promise. Diem smiled, a soft, radiant smile that carried all the warmth and certainty of their commitment. The night deepened, the farm bathed in moonlight, and for the first time in a long while, they allowed themselves to feel completely safe, protected not by walls or fences, but by the unbreakable bond of love, trust, and unwavering support. And in that moment, with the world held at bay, Toan and Diem knew that together, they could endure anything, face anything, and remain unshakably devoted to each other, no matter what storms the future might bring.